Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Let's not dilly-dally any longer. I'm recording this video at 11:30 at night after the show has ended for the Game Awards 2024. By the time I edit this and everything, it's probably getting out by close to 2 a.m. We'll see what we can do here. But ladies and gentlemen, as someone who was very vocal about the Game Awards 2023 and how unacceptable it was with the acceptance speech timing, as well as just the games being showed off, the amount of ads, the pacing, it was all really bad. It was a low year, but this year was the 10th anniversary. And I just want to give Jeff Keighley and his team props. They took that feedback on the chin, and they did a great job responding to a lot of issues with last year's show. The speech time for the devs was much longer. They got to get their bars off, and Swen definitely made up for lost time with what I thought was one of the best ever acceptance speeches, except it was just a year later. The pace was great, and of course, an amazing slew of announcements really does help out with lifting this show up as one of the best Game Awards we've seen. But I just wanted to make sure I circle back to that old take and don't leave it in the dust and say, Jeff and team, y'all did a great job improving, and I'm looking forward to next year's show. Before we get into all the announcements, a quick word from today's sponsor. In my opinion, 2024 was a down year for gaming, but 2025 is looking really exciting. With the Game Awards behind us, we have a couple of other targets on our radar when it comes to games to play in 2025, and that means it might be a good time to start gearing up for a gaming PC, especially right now. It's the holiday season. Maybe you have some Christmas cash in hand and you're looking for some great deals. Well, let me point you to Apex. Right now on their website, you can save 20% off with code HOLLY24 on a bunch of PCs. I want to recommend to you the Apex Streamer Plus. It starts at $2,100, but with this deal going on right now, it goes down to $1,700. But let's say the holiday sale is over and you're seeing this video after the fact. Don't worry, you can still use my code MATTY. That'll give you 10% off anything on the website. Just click the link in the description down below, and shout out to Apex again for sponsoring today's video. All right, let's begin with the pre-show. We got Ninja Gaiden Ragebound coming out summer 2025. I'm totally born and raised on Ninja Gaiden Black and Ninja Gaiden 2, and then eventually Razor's Edge when they re-released that and made it better. So that's the type of Ninja Gaiden I know. I'm not really familiar with 2D, and this looks like the great place for me to start. It's stylish. It looks really, really fluid, so I'm about what they're doing here. I can't wait to pick this one up, and naturally, we'll be talking about this on Retro Rebound. After this, there was Shadow Labyrinth shown off by Bandai. This was a sneaky good announcement because at first I'm like, Metroidvania, I'm a little tired of this genre, you know, like I get who it's for, it's just not for me. And then all of a sudden, evil Pac-Man shows up, and Pac-Man's eating everything, and it's really dark all of a sudden, and that was like the twist I needed to get in on this. So I thought this was a really cool surprise announcement, just getting Pac-Man this weird twist. It reminds me of like Pac-Man World, where you would have these like 3D platformers with Pac-Man that were oddly good. And so I'm curious to see where this one goes. Another surprise one that this is not a positive announcement in my opinion is Yu Suzuki's next game, creator of Shenmue. I love Shenmue. I have not played 3 yet though for those reviews got to me, man. I was not ready to accept that disappointment. I did not want to get into 3 knowing the story didn't end and that we would eventually at least get a 4th. Well, I don't know if that's happening because Yu Suzuki's next game is mobile, it's Netflix exclusive, and I think Shenmue is cooked, and that breaks my heart. After this, though, we get Slow Clap's next game. This is the developer behind Sifu, and I was really curious to see what it is. It's called Rematch. It's coming summer 2025. It's a indoor soccer game. I'm going to keep an open mind, all right? I'm going to keep an open mind. I think after Sifu, I would have made another combat-driven game. You know, it seemed like your name was getting on the map. This seems like we're going completely left. I thought this was going to be a double feature announcement, like, hey, here's our live service thing we're working on to kind of like do the business thing that y'all know we have to do, but our next hardcore single-player thing is like a Sifu 2, if you will, like at least in spirit with like evolving that combat system. But I'll keep an open mind. Slow Clap has earned my trust, but I'm not excited by what I saw. And then to end the pre-show, we got Solasta 2 entering early access in 2025. I've talked about Solasta before, but if you're into what Divinity Original Sin was doing, you're going to be into Solasta, and it looks like it's leveling up quite a bit, just like what happened with Divinity Original Sin 2 to Baldur's Gate 3 with Larian. So I think if you like that kind of trajectory and seeing a team on that, Solasta 2 is not one you should sleep on. For me, you know my rule with early access, though. When it got revealed, I was like, this looks a little rough, and then I saw early access tag, and I was like, okay, as always, see you at 1.0. So the pre-show ends, and they open up the real show with The Witcher 4. Now, this was slowly becoming an expectation. The way CD Projekt Red was ramping up talk about it, it's entered full production, and obviously I would love to see gameplay, but I can accept a full CG trailer, especially if it's one this epic and this atmospheric, but I can accept it with a series where I'm going to have some questions after The Witcher 3, right? What are we doing next? Is Geralt going to be a part of this? And of course, we see Sorel. I am pumped to see Ciri in the main role. The music in this trailer was, as expected, incredible. CD Projekt Red did not miss with Cyberpunk 2077. I'm just very excited for their future. And this is just the start, right? Because then we're going to get more Witcher with a Witcher remake. So naturally, of course, you know, with the content we cover, we'll be talking a lot about Witcher 4 in the near future. So I'll see you in that video. After this, we got Elden Ring Night Rain coming 2025. This is a roguelike kind of survival game where you have days to beat the entire game itself. There's 8 classes. I saw Sekiro movement. I saw deflecting. I also saw the Nameless King. I saw Dark Souls 2 bosses. I saw things from Bloodborne. I, as someone who, like many of you, has played a lot of FromSoft games, am most interested in this game sheerly by, are they finally doing it? Are they pulling the thread that pulls this universe together? Because what's interesting is they activated the Dark Souls Twitter account to promote this. Obviously, you see a lot of Dark Souls content here, but it looks like they're making this Monster Hunter style boss rush game that you can play with your friends. So jolly cooperation is a real thing now. You'll actually have potentially a traditional invite system here in Elden Ring Night Rain. But I am so curious to see what this game is doing narratively, which I've never really said about a FromSoft game. To see Sekiro combat, like I just played and beat Sekiro this year and I loved it. It was so good. So to see those mechanics in there, very keen to see what FromSoft is cooking again. And they just continue to announce a metric ton of games. Looking awesome. We got an untitled project announcement from the creators of Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian developers. It's so funny. I was just talking to a friend the other night. I was like, you know, we got The Last Guardian, and like, is that team still around? What's going on there? Like, we really haven't heard from them. That was like a highly sought after game. Well, here they are with, as expected, a game that, Jeff Keighley put it perfectly, captures the imagination. You just look at it and go, whatever's going on here, I'm very interested. I love the way this robot yet creature was designed, and it turns into almost a space shuttle that flies out, and you can literally see the spine detaching. It's a grotesque level of detail, and so I'm very, again, keen to learn more about this game and see if it's up my alley. And this is also a little bit of a blind spot for me, though. I have not played Eco. Shadow of the Colossus I played a little bit of, and Last Guardian I did play, and I wasn't a big fan of it, so I do want to go back and clean up that bit of gaming history. Like, I'm just thinking of all the retro rebound potential coming into 2025. I'm very excited. But hey, perhaps for me, the biggest surprise was The Outer Worlds 2. Only by just the sheer, like, wait, they're going to double release in a single year, Obsidian? 2 big RPGs. You got Avowed at the top of the year, and then you got The Outer Worlds 2 at the end of the year. I was off the walls excited when I saw this. I was so happy to see The Outer Worlds 2 there, because if y'all have tracked my coverage, you know I said with The Outer Worlds 2, I was like, this game, man, like, I think it's further along than people realize, because they started development right after The Outer Worlds 1 and its DLC. Like, they've been cooking for at least 4 years on this. Like, it would make sense. It's close. But again, you think of Xbox's 2025 schedule. Now you're throwing The Outer Worlds 2 in that mix. That's a really exciting combination on top of Fable. Maybe South of Midnight turns out really great. Avowed, from what I played, was pretty solid. Like, there's a lot of great options there for Xbox, and you're throwing this into the mix. There's still the rumor of like an Oblivion remake, so there's still a lot of good stuff on the table for Xbox in 2025. We also got the new reveal of Joseph Fares' next game at Hazelight in Split Fiction. It's coming out March 6th next year, which is insanely close. And I still got to wrap up It Takes Two with my wife. We've been playing it through bit by bit and absolutely loving it. But Split Fiction looks like more of that, but crazier. I love Joseph Fares' energy. Like, it's the main reason you pretty much want to support this team, because he just hypes up he's like the best hype beast of all time, man. So just shout out to him. Game looks awesome. Then we get an interesting one here. Borderlands 4. And this is definitely an earn it moment. Like, completely, I am guarding myself from this. Borderlands 3 was the start of my realization. I'm like, I don't think I'm a big Borderlands fan anymore. I played Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I don't think that was very good. And I start to realize after the movie as well, I'm like, I think Borderlands is aimed at teenagers, and I might have outgrown this series. I wanted Borderlands to go back to the more gritty, serious approach that 1 really had, but also 2 quietly has. 2 quietly is a serious dark game, but Handsome Jack is always like breaking that wall for you, and he is so evil and such a tremendous villain, one of gaming's most iconic villains. But I wanted them to take it more seriously, especially after the Calypso twins in Borderlands 3. I'm like, please give me some villain that I am at least intrigued in, and they did that. they did do that where I'm curious about this villain character. You see a war kind of breaking out. My main gripe with this reveal, man, is like, we got to go back to the drawing board on these playable characters. There's no way that these are our 4 playable characters. I just did not feel that excitement. Like when I looked, I ended up afterwards because I thought, like, am I jaded? Like, what's wrong with me, man? So I go and I look up all the playable characters and just lay eyes on them again across 3, 2, and 1, as well as pre-sequel, and of course Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. You have the character creator. I'm like, what's going on here? And I'm like, no, dude, like these characters just don't inspire excitement for me. Like, I don't even see different walks of life across this universe in this game, but I'm going to try and keep an open mind. I want to love Borderlands so much because this is one of the most important franchises to me. Like, literally, as someone who made and saved friendships over this game, like, I just have a strong attachment to Borderlands. It kills me that I'm not, like, hyped over the moon about this one, but hey, I just don't want it to be a Borderlands 3 where, oh, it's fun to play. It's like, Borderlands does have great storytelling bits. It does have great characters. And I love seeing, like, Zane, and he's a little bit older, and, like, he's got longer hair. I'm like, what's going on here? And so Borderlands trailers do that for me, where I just see these characters. I'm like, hang on, we might have something here, but I'm protecting myself until I lay hands on this game. I see more gameplay. I see it all running. And of course, really, it's not until I run it start to finish and get a feel of that story will I feel convinced Borderlands is back. But I was one of the few people who went out and saw that movie. So pardon me if I'm coming across very negative to y'all. I know it's different from the game development side of things, but that movie was such an insult. It was the worst thing I've seen. So yeah, Borderlands 4, you got to earn it. I'm pulling for you. Let's hope it's really good. After this, we got the Tekken guest character announcement. It's Clive Rossfield from Final Fantasy 16. He is arriving on December 16th. I love this announcement because Final Fantasy 16 is a good game, but I feel like there was a missed opportunity here, which was in the rumor mill, for Tifa. Tifa, just, again, like, to me, Tekken, I don't mind the sword characters. I'm a Yoshimitsu main, proudly so. But look, man, I feel like Tekken, you know, hand-to-hand combat, come on. Like, do I have to spell it out for you? Have we not seen Tifa's moveset in Rebirth and not immediately thought, wow, what a great Tekken character that would make? It just feels like, almost as someone who's looking at what my heart wants versus what business wants, that this is a business move to kind of push 16 as the newest Final Fantasy game a bit more forward. But I feel like the more hype announcement was in Tifa. Maybe she still happens, but I don't know if you dedicate 2 guest characters to the same franchise. I doubt that. So this feels like we're not going to see Tifa for a while in a fighting game. Splitgate 2 got some gameplay shown off. It's coming in 2025. This is a weird thing. I thought Splitgate was kind of popping off, and then they, like, stopped it and then did Splitgate 2. So they're jumping into a tough genre. Best of luck to them. Then we got Virtua Fighter announced. RGG had a couple of announcements here. Virtua Fighter is back. We already knew that. That was confirmed. I feel like they shouldn't have confirmed that off the stage because I think the announcement would have had higher impact. But then they show off-screen gameplay. Like, literally YouTube leak level gameplay. Like, okay, what I'm seeing looks solid. I'm interested, especially, again, as a Tekken fan. Like, yo, let's get some more 3D fighter competition in there. I'm about this. I want Dead or Alive to have a 7th entry. Like, I want more of these types of fighters big time. So I'm excited for a new Virtua Fighter. I just feel like they could have shown a little bit more, at least in high definition. After this, RGG has another announcement. It's a new IP. They're calling it Project Century. This game looks really interesting. It's set in, like, the early 1900s. When I saw this setting, y'all, I did have a moment. For those of you who are Sleeping Dog fans, you're right there with me. I did have a moment of, like, are they doing it? Are they bringing it back? And when I saw it was RGG and it's a different IP, I was like, close enough. I'm in. This is great to see because Yakuza is such a long-running franchise. It's very exciting. RGG does great work. Judgment was a great place for people to jump in. But this is cool because, again, more and more people are gaining awareness of this very talented developer. Another new IP is like, hey, you're out on all this other stuff. We got something else for you here. But the setting is what really captured me the most. The combat, the visuals, something just looked a little off with it. Looks a little rough, looks a little early, but in the terms of setting, I am so in on whatever they're trying to sell me here. So RGG showed out, and then we got Turok Origins. Weird one. Not a big Turok fan because I haven't played much of it, but Turok is always a first-person shooting franchise, and I have 2 friends in my group who we were watching together, and when they saw it was like a third-person, almost like hero shooter kind of vibe to it, they went, oh, yo, it's Turok. Like, it was an immediate drop of, like, what is this? It doesn't look bad, but as someone who wanted to get to the essence of a little Turok and understand it a little bit better, someone doesn't have much experience, this feels like it's against a lot of what Turok was. But I'll keep an open mind. Again, I'll let the Turok fans kind of decide, but I was sitting there with 2 of them, and they were kind of disappointed, and so it kind of dampened my hype a little bit. So we'll see, but what I saw didn't look awful. Just it didn't seem, as I looked through every Turok game afterwards, it didn't look very Turok. I don't know. Outside of the dinosaurs. This is now at the point of the show where we hit a little bit of a dip. Like, you're going a bit like this. Like, you're coming up for air every 3 announcements with something really cool, I think. But you do dip for a little bit. Like, you get Helldivers 2 update. It's out now. If you love Helldivers 2, this is exciting. I really enjoyed Helldivers 2, but I've moved on. Warframe 1999 looks awesome. This new update also is very good, I've heard, but for me, not a Warframe player. Consistently, I do dip in and out occasionally, but nothing crazy. But still, this update looks awesome, but just not hype, right? Like, we're coming off a high of amazing hype announcements. Power World shows off a Faybreak update. It's coming in December. This was like one of the worst showings of the entire showcase itself. You're talking about awful visuals, awful frame rate. I'm like, what was this thing captured on? Like, have some shame, man. Like, why does this game look like this and run like this at this point in the year? I feel like it should have taken a step forward on that front. So this was an awful showing that was not convincing to me at all that I should dive back into the game. So yeah, we're dipping low here. But then Capcom shows up with a crazy announcement. Onimusha is back. Onimusha Way of the Sword coming 2026. I remember when this first started up on the trailer, I was like, oh wait, is it Neo 3? But then I see it's Onimusha. I'm like, oh my God, dude, what? They're bringing Onimusha back? I swear, though, yeah, like, I love it. I love Capcom's energy, but y'all gotta bring back Mega Man in a way that's not a collection. It's time, Capcom. Take your very talented team and give me a new X Command mission. Give me a new X game. Do something with X, all right? Enough of this classic Mega Man. He's got 11 entries. We have 8 in the X franchise, all right? It's time for a new X game, like X9, or revive that canceled Doom-style X game. Like, do something with X, please. I'm begging you, man. But Onimusha being back is sick as hell. I love to see that, man. This game looks great. Then we get the first Berserker, which is coming out March 27th, 2025. Every time we've seen this game, it has looked, to me, really bad. It's looked really rough around the edges. And now they show it again with no gameplay, and it's coming out soon. Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. All of my red flags are going off with this one. I don't want to put that bad energy out there. I'll keep an open mind as I always try to. But look, I'm not going to deny what my eyes have seen, which is that y'all are burying this one big time. But this is a Dungeon and Fighter game, and they have another one here, an Arid Dungeon and Fighter. This is a kind of open world game, very Genshin style. Throughout all of the advertising in this game, like, one of the things the Game Awards does that sometimes helps it with some announcements, but also doesn't, is not really establish a fine line like, hey, this is an ad break. Okay, we're back now. So you saw a lot of Genshin style games. Like, you saw Arid, you saw Wuthering Waves, you saw, of course, a bunch of Hoyoverse games we'll talk about. And the reality is that the Hoyoverse has started a wave of like, oh my God, a lot of these look the same. And I say this as someone who's like a big JRPG fan. Like, I'm about these types of things, but yeah, like we need a better, stronger identity for some of these. We saw Dying Light, the Beast, that's coming out summer 2025. Dying Light always cooks, so even though the showing wasn't really spectacular, I'm in on whatever Dying Light's doing just because the gameplay is so sound. Fortnite Ballistic is here. It's like a competitive Fortnite mode, and I'm good, man. Marvel Rivals has me taken care of right now. I'm okay. But if you're into Fortnite, it's cool to see it expanding. Like, we have Lego Fortnite. Like, Fortnite's becoming this, it has been this massive platform, and they just continue to evolve it. So I give credit where it's due. I'm just keeping that game relevant and interesting in a lot of ways. Squid Game Unleashed comes out December 17th. This is a Netflix game. There were a few other Netflix games. We already talked about Yu Suzuki's game, but this was one. And there's actually one on this list that I thought looked pretty cool, so I was very interested in that. Stage Fright showed up. This is from the Overcooked developers. I feel like I want to like this one based on what was shown off, but the problem with Stage Fright is I don't really have an idea of what the gameplay truly is. And it's something that the industry struggles a lot with, is this kind of capturing of the moment-to-moment gameplay as they're trying to build excitement. I know they all don't have a ton of time, but I feel like I was seeing inspiration from a Hazelight game. Like, okay, split screen, is it co-op? Is that what we're doing here? Is that the evolution from the Overcooked formula? Like, that's what I was trying to figure out. So I'm interested by developer alone, but the trailer didn't really do too much for me. Interestingly, a Game of Thrones game got announced called King's Road. It's coming 2025. Hey, look, better late than never. I know we're out of the Game of Thrones hype window. I know the season finale, the series finale, I should say, pissed a lot of people off. I have yet to finish it because I got to season 6 and stopped. I apologize if that's a horrible thing for me to do, but I was catching up. Everyone was losing their mind over 8, and I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go play video games now, which is a mistake I've been undoing over time and watching more movies and shows. But yeah, man, Game of Thrones, King's Road looks cool. Like it looks lower budget for sure. I was hoping for something bigger budget, but I kind of go back to when I remember there was a rumored Bethesda Game Studios Game of Thrones title. So to see a Game of Thrones, at least seemingly RPG, come to life here. I mean, you see Jon Snow, Jaime, Cersei, like you see all these different characters. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm interested to see what this becomes, but again, looked a little bit lower budget. Double Dragon Revive was shown off. Didn't get a good feel for the gameplay. We just know, hey, this is an Arc System game, and it's coming out October 23rd, 2025. So looking forward to seeing Double Dragon come back. Den of Wolves got shown off. This is from the creators of Payday 1, 2, as well as GTFO. I've not played much GTFO, but I enjoy me some Payday 2. That's for damn sure. And this game looked like a lot of that spirit. And so I don't want to get ahead of myself, because I remember when Payday 3 was announced, we were all cautiously optimistic, like, what's going on here? Like, I am very interested in that, but then we know what happened with Payday 3 and how a lot of people just went back to Payday 2. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I know this is from 10 Chambers. This is a different studio, but it's from the devs behind these games, and it looks more true to that. Like, immediately you saw the kind of Payday locomotion of, like, you saw bags on everyone's backs and like they're moving. And as someone who just saw Heat for the first time, amazing movie that clearly inspired what you see in Payday. I was all over this game. That was really exciting to me. So I thought this game looked great. We also got a new Sonic game announced. It was too brief for my Sonic love and heart. It was really cool to see Sonic Racing Cross Worlds announced with our man Shadow. Shadow taking the stage away from Sonic. Say less. Say less. I'm all about this. I love that Shadow's really starting to become a mascot side by side with Sonic in the terms of marketing. I think that's huge. So I like the Sonic racing games, even if to many people they're redundant. Like, dude, this guy's faster than the speed of light. Why does he need to get into a car? I don't care. It's fun. Let's do it. After this, we get into a game that unfortunately the trailer leaked ahead of the show. So I did see this one in advance and I went, dang, man, this looks good. And then saw it again during the show and really was sold on the atmosphere and the tone. I mean, I think that Hangar 13 really don't get enough credit for how well they craft their worlds and the lengths they go to represent the time periods that they're working within. So I think of Mafia 3 and the lengths they went to and how great of a job they did. I think that stuff is fantastic, elevates the medium, elevates the storytelling that games are capable of. And while I think Mafia 3 is a very flawed game, Mafia 2 is still my GOAT. I absolutely love what Mafia 3 tries to do. And I do think Hangar 13 knocked it out of the park in that regard. But I'm really curious to see what they do here with Old World. Like, it feels very Red Dead inspired. Of course, you see a lot of Godfather in this, as you would in any other Mafia game, right? I feel like that vibe is being captured really well here, but the stakes feel high. And again, I gotta call out the music. Music was fantastic in this trailer, so I'm really interested to see what they're doing. Of course, we need that gameplay. We need to see what they're cooking over there before we get full hype, but summer 2025, I'm looking mighty interested. After this, we get Dispatch, this kind of superhero-style game that was presented by Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey, and I think this is one of those Telltale-style games that looks kind of solid. Like, artistically, it looks really unique. The dialogue sounded natural and not as cliched as I was expecting. The choices are there. Look, I think there's still a place for these types of games. They're not my favorite. They're not as exciting as they were a decade ago when I was getting, Walking Dead Season 1 and then Wolf Among Us. Still waiting on the Wolf Among Us 2. Still waiting to see what's happening there. Maybe one day we'll finally get it. But Dispatch looks really cool. Again, really love the art style. I love this almost superhero universe. It reminds me a lot of, say, Invincible. Of course, I think of My Hero. Like, I just immediately started thinking of things I like that involve superheroes. So I think they captured that artistically, at least, really well. Now, I thought this was the final announcement of the show, the way Jeff laid it out, but it's a big one. And it's one for a game that I have not played yet. That's Okami. Okami got a sequel. We know Hideki Kamiya had left Platinum Games. And this was a big deal because, like, Platinum is in this really weird spot right now. We don't really know quite what they're up to. He is working on this in partnership with Capcom. Again, Okami sequel is crazy. Like, they literally just announced it as Okami sequel, which I thought was funny. But the fact that this exists is just insane for a lot of people. I can't put myself in those shoes because, again, I never played the first one. I've heard it's a brilliant video game. I know it got an HD re-release. Anytime I see it, I think the art style looks really cool, but I sincerely know nothing about it. So if you want to educate me down below, this is a great chance to do so. We're nearing the end here. We see Crimson Desert again, late 2025. This game looks amazing, dude. I cannot wait for it. I'm surprised. It's going to definitely get a lot of buzz next year, I think. Like, it just has that do everything kind of spirit to it. The scale of the game is absolutely insane. And for it to have amazing looking combat and large scale battles and being able to climb up on top of anything, like, this feels like that do everything style game. It truly is. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I got to play it. But it truly looked like a game where I went, yo, when I bought my Series X, when I bought my PS5, when I heard next gen, this is the style of game that I was thinking of. This is the height I was hoping we'd reach for. So Crimson Desert looks awesome to me. Cannot wait for this one. And I'll be watching closely because they just did like almost an hour of gameplay. Like, they've been very transparent with it. So I feel like this game has every chance to pop off if it delivers. And the last game of the show, which had been rumored for a while, and it was one of my predictions, it is a new Naughty Dog game. It's not Half-Life 3, which is insane that was in the rumor mill, and it's more insane that knowing it wasn't the case, no one shut it down. Those rumors were spiraling, man, before this show. It was crazy how much hype it was getting. But it's a new Naughty Dog game called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. It had really strange product placement. You know, you had Porsche, and you had Sony, and you had Adidas, and that was like the one icky part of the trailer. But the cutscene, the music, the score was just like, honestly, it hard carried the trailer in a way, because I feel like if I was just looking at the dialogue alone and the product placement, I would have felt different. But that music created a world in my head that I was so ready to explore. And then they ended it in a very Guardians of the Galaxy feel, like hit the music, da-da-da-da, and I'm like, oh boy, no, like PlayStation fans everywhere are looking at this going, dear God, they're concording it again, please no. But then I feel like they knew. Because all of a sudden, there you see this main character on the ground of this alien planet, and they deploy this sword that looks so sick and jump into melee combat. I'm like, okay, that was a completely different tone from what we saw before. And Naughty Dog doing sci-fi is such a cool idea. I'm very, very excited to see them handle this. It's their 5th new IP in company history, and what we're looking at here is the same team that made Uncharted, that made The Last of Us. This is their first new IP since The Last of Us, and I'm excited because I'm ready for something new from them. No doubt they're still going to make a bunch of other stuff. This has been in development for 4 years. I just am really interested because I know that Naughty Dog was meeting up with the director of Alien Romulus, and so I'm curious, like, how horror vibes will this get? Because Romulus, I thought, was a fantastic movie. And so if they're talking to this dude, I'm like, let this guy cook. Like, get him involved. Let's see how far this will go. So I feel like we only got a real hint of the tone that this game is going to provide. But just from the music and the acting and the dialogue and, like, the way she was just, like, slurping on her drink, like, you done yet? Like, that energy. And then the immediate setup of, like, what this combat will be like, which I love the melee combat and something like The Last of Us. I'm very interested in seeing what's going on here. But to have this announcement on top of an Okami sequel, I'm looking at my list right now, on top of The Outer Worlds 2 for me, Witcher 4, a new Elden Ring game, a new Ninja Gaiden game, Borderlands 4 being here is crazy, Virtua Fighter here, a new RGG IP, Onimusha is back, Game of Thrones game, like the list goes on, a new Sonic racing game, Mafia. What a show. What a show, dude. Like, seriously, announcements just on their own. But again, as I said to open up this video, kudos to Jeff and the team for just making a much better show out of things when it came to taking in that feedback and making sure that they gave the presenters their time to introduce the awards. And honestly, I thought it was a good collaboration between, like, game creator and movie stars and kind of making it work together in an interesting way. Like, the way Aaron Paul and Laura Bailey came out to present a game, I thought was really cool. Speech time was great. Everyone got their moment. No one was getting wrapped up. There was a little bit of Deadpool Wolverine energy where, like, Disney was laughing at themselves in that movie, and it was very cathartic for the audience. To get Jeff cooked up by the Muppets, I think for a lot of people was cathartic. I don't hate Jeff on that level. I don't hate him at all. I don't know him personally to hate him, but I think for a lot of people, they probably thought that was amusing enough. So yeah, great show all around. Really had a good time watching it. I thought most of the announcements were great. The pace was great. An improvement overall in a major way over everything we saw last year. So congrats to Jeff and the team. Let me know your thoughts on the Game Awards down below. Curious to get your thoughts. With that, take excellent care of yourselves. I'm uploading this really late, so get some damn sleep. And I'll catch you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.